paper a little bit more to
Who's had their hand up the longest? The woman in white right back here. I always know it, and I saw it earlier. No, I'm sorry, right here. Yeah.
Claire Martin. I'm wondering about the magazine and what the future of the magazine.
The question is, she's wondering about the magazine and what the future of it is.
This is an educated group. We're having discussions about the magazine right now. We've had, I think it's been around 30 years. I'm not sure that it's ever made any money, and it's a nice high-end thing. It's been pretty good over the years, but we just haven't been able to hit the right notes with it. And so we're having some pretty deep conversations about. I'm trying to think of when was the last time we relaunched it. It might have been last year. We took it monthly, and we're back at the drawing board trying to take a look at that thing and figure out if we, in the environment that we're operating in, where every body and every dollar is getting to be more precious by the day, if that's something we can continue to do or not. And if it is, we have to. I think part of the issue is that it's a magazine and we're newspaper people, and we've had advertising people who understand the magazine business. We've almost always had newspaper people running the magazine, and I think that's been part of the problem. So we're taking a look at that.
Rory?
Rory Johnston, could you say something about how you decide what goes in the paper? A very basic question. I mean, if a building catches fire, okay, you put in a story. If Barack Obama says, I believe something, you put that in the story. But if a group of people who are not named and who will not name themselves say, we believe that John McCain had an extramarital affair.
That was the New York Times.
That was the New York Times. How would you, that sort of story, how do you decide what goes in the paper?
Well, that's the million-dollar question that we could spend the rest of the evening on. Every day is different. One of the things we're trying to do, we're focused right now heavily on the front. I'm trying to focus heavily on the front page and to make it more interesting and more lively and more local. And it sounds like somebody noticed. I mean, we are. I hope you're noticing we're attempting to do that on a. Well, we attempt to do it every day, but we're trying to put some increased emphasis on it. We've got John Arthur, our new executive editor, is a guy who I think has probably done the best front page of the paper over the years, and that's why he's back in that job. So what goes into that? Well, it's a mix of things. It's what do we think? What do we think is the important? And that's changed a lot too. It's no longer what was the important news of the day today, because everybody knows if you're an information consumer, you don't need us to tell you that tomorrow. That's been part of, I think, our industry's problem is it's taken us too long to figure out that telling you what you could find out today, tomorrow doesn't help. And an example I would hold up with that today would be this. It was yesterday morning at 9 a.m. That General Petraeus got an extension of duty there, and if you go back and read our story that was on the front page today by Julian Barnes, the word said Thursday or said Wednesday or so announced Wednesday wasn't anywhere in that story. The thing we're attempting to do is spin these stories forward and tell you, analyze them a lot more in print. We're giving you the benefit of the doubt that you at least heard a headline or read something about it the day before. We're trying to put more context and analysis and that sort of thing on it. But what we try to do with the front page is come up with a mix of things that we think are going to be interesting, and that varies from day to day depending on what the what the news is. Obviously, the campaign's a big story. The war is still a very big story, although it's into our sixth year, it's getting harder to. I think that there's a fair amount of reader burnout on it. We're trying to figure out new and different ways to tell what's going on over there. We're running a lot more local stories, and it ranges from the traditional institutional story, like what Mayor Villaraigosa said or did yesterday, or what Obama said somewhere, to we try to always find the story that's, and our column one tries to tackle us, that's a really interesting read that's got nothing to do with what happened yesterday. It's what we call an enterprise story. We're trying to find offbeat stuff. If you've been reading the paper lately, you'll notice that 3 times in the last 10 weeks we've held the story to the cover. It hasn't jumped off the front page. That's never happened until last year when I was 2 years ago when I was business editor. We placed the first story that didn't jump off the front page. Wow, that's like unheard of at the LA Times. And the story we had one a week or so ago about gas prices rising. It was the biggest news story of the day, and we told you what you needed to know, and that was it. We didn't beat you to death with 30 more inches of prose and analysis on something like that.
Does your reader survey show that there's a big reaction against long stories?
No, you know, it's funny. Readers, I mean, every study I've ever seen says that you lose half the folks when you make them jump and turn the page. And every survey we get from readers says they want longer, you know, long, in-depth stories that have meaning to them. So it's like some of this is the old reader going, I want you to go that way. So we're trying to find that right balance of stuff. The average, we have pulled the average story that runs in the A section, which is our biggest and where the most of the real estate is for stories. The average story length on that's come down by like 40% in the last 5 years. You almost never see a story now inside the paper jump. They're usually 20 inches or less. We're making a real concerted effort to be respectful of people's time. On the one hand, on the other hand, we also have this phenomena I've not seen anywhere else in American journalism. Our typical reader spends 51 minutes with the paper every day. That is huge. And part of that is there's a lot to read. Today we gave you 122 pages of stuff to read, and we do have an older, more affluent audience, lots of retired folks who have time to read that. So we're trying, the trick again is to be sensitive to, you don't want to alienate your core reader. At the same time, we're also trying to win younger readers and be more faster on our feet and more respectful of folks who don't have a lot of time, like young families, working moms, and that sort of thing.
This gentleman here had a question, and am I missing anybody back there in the back? There's one in the, let's start right here, and then right behind you, and then let's go back up there.
Grant Merrick. My question is about the job requirements for your average journalist. How do you think they've changed? Can you just be a good writer nowadays, or do you have to be a good blogger and a good videographer and have all those tools that you're training everyone?
Sure. Well, the traditional LA Times hire for most of our recent history has been we try to hire the cream of the crop of what's out there. So those tend to be folks who are a little bit older, who've got at least 10 years experience, either at a large regional paper or one of our what we have historically considered our peers, and that would be the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times. We've hired some very good folks in USA Today and I forget some of the New York Times and the Washington Post. Thank you. And there's been a lot of movement between those four papers. We were always rating each other's staffs, and then we've also traditionally hired from big papers like the Cleveland Plain Dealer, the Register down in Orange County, and places like that. But I did speak to a group of college kids a couple of weeks ago, and you know the job requirement today is completely different. Our workforce isn't getting any bigger, so one of the things that I'm trying hard to do is we need to get our newsroom needs to be more ethnically diverse than it is, and it needs to be more diverse age-wise. We need to get a lot more younger folks in there who understand what it is that folks those ages want to read, because we obviously don't understand that. And that also requires, and those people come with, because they are the internet generation, and they grew up, many of not even reading newspapers, they come ready-made with those skills. They know how to shoot video, they know how to blog, and if you're, I don't know, how old are you? 24. Yeah. So you, we're going to be a lot more open about hiring younger folks than we have probably any time in our history, but we also expect those folks to come with those skills sort of already made. And a lot of our web staff obviously has that stuff, and we've had lots of good cases where that's rubbed off on the print side, and people see how cool it is to. We started our first training of our classes for video shooting and editing for our print staff, and we had a group of 6 editors go through it yesterday. It was the first class, and that's hard. It's hard to learn and hard to do, and but it's very cool. And those editors now have an understanding of what it takes to do that. So when one of our things we're working on is we're not going to let the only reporters who get to learn how to shoot video are those whose editors have already been through the process and know what it is that they're getting into and understand how that's going to work. So yeah, the more technological skills you have this day and age, the lot better you're gonna do.
You looking for a job? Gentleman back here.
Yeah, Russ, my name's K.O. Mayer. I'm not actually from the industry. I'm a senior technology advisor primarily for the government. And I have an observation for you. I loved your presentation that you were making early on. And the observation is, you mentioned that the newspaper business and all the questions since is extremely tactical. Mm-hmm. And what you're facing as a company or as an industry is extremely strategic.
Right.
And that divergence and that imbalance is really seems to be what you all are struggling with.
You have hit the nail on the head.
I'm not sure I understand it. What do you mean between strategic and tactical?
As the questions come from the audience and so forth, that they're very, very specific tactical issues about the newspaper and what